computer. Okay, guys. First is about Ellingham diagram. This diagram is, maybe you are already familiar. Uh, this is one of the most famous diagram in metallurgical process. And this is in the right of the slide. This is the form of the diagram. In the x-axis, it is temperature. And in the vertical axis, it is Gibbs energy. What gives energy? It is Gibbs energy of reaction, formation of oxide from oxygen and its element. For example, in here we see the reaction of calcium plus oxygen become CaO. So this is the Gibbs energy of formation of oxide from a metal, and the mole of oxygen is 1. You can see here the mole of oxygen, all of the reaction is 1. So again, the x-axis is temperature, vertical axis is the Gibbs energy, and this is the Gibbs energy formation of an oxide from 1 mole of oxygen and a metal. And basically, you can see it is a straight line, and straight line, it is a linear. The basic form of linear equation is y equal to a plus bx. And s, because Gibbs energy is delta H minus delta S times T, so the A, or the intercept, telling you about delta H, and the B, or the slope, or the gradient, telling you that it is minus delta S. So this is really, really important. So after this, I will tell you about the use of this diagram. So again, we can see here the slope is delta H, or the change of entropy or the reaction. Delta S is the slope, and delta H is the intercept, or the change of enthalpy involved in the reaction of these oxide formations. Okay, guys, how to draw this diagram? You can easily find the data, for example, in the table of thermodynamic data. This is from the books of Kubaszewski, material thermochemistry. There is a reaction, and there is Gibbs energy as a function of temperature. You can see here. Let's back to this equation. In here, the equation is y equal to a plus bx, or only t here. However, in the data, you will find not only a, not only ct, but also bt log t. It means that the the magnitude of bt log t is really small, so you can neglect this. So the equation is become like in the right bottom. For example, the delta H of the CaO, you can see here the CaO is in the two bottom here, because in the table of this book, the reaction in the form of decomposition, but the Ellingham diagram in the form of formation. So we have to put opposite signs. So if A here is positive 300,000 something, then because we want to the reaction in the direction of formation, not decomposition, so we have to put minus in this all sign. So it will become a minus, and here plus. So in here, you can see the equation of the Gibbs energy formation of CaO. Remember, the mole of oxygen need to be 1. Okay, everyone. So so it is easily we can draw this line. So the slope is positive and the gradient is 51, and the intercept or the delta H is minus 300,000 something something. So it's very easy. You can directly draw and collect the data from this book and make this diagram. Okay? Any question? I love to give surprise. Maybe if you very active, I will give you GoPay. Okay? Okay, this is the Ellingham diagram how to draw. Okay, guys? So this is the example. Okay? The delta G in here, you can see, for example, for the CaO that we already obtained, this is in calorie, but in joule, we have to divide it by 4.2 because 1 calorie is 4.2 joule. Therefore, we can write this gives energy in two types. First, in calorie, and second one in joule. And it is calorie is always smaller than joule. From calorie to joule, you have to times, not divided, sorry, you have to times with 4.2 because 1 calorie is 4.2 joule. So this is the shape of the line. We need to draw the line of minus 1 million something plus 215x. So this is the line. And the line, this is straight line. And after boiling point, M is melting point. I mean CaO melt. Or what is melt here? Calcium or CaO. In here, the melt one is metal. Okay. Melting point of calcium is around 800 something, and then the calcium will boil at close to 1600. Okay, guys. Iron, for example, where is iron? Here, iron melting point is around you can see here around 1000, close to one iron, yes, around close to 1600. Okay, my question is, why the slope of CaO increase significantly after boiling? Anyone can help me answer? Why after boiling point the slope is changing? Why there is a significant change in the slope? GoPay. Anyone? You can open your mic and then answer my questions. No one know? Student from ITB? If nobody answer, I will not continue. Okay, guys. Why there is a significant change in the slope? Nobody? No one know? Okay, I want to see the face of the student. Okay, then I will ask my student. It's like in the class because nobody answer. Okay, Billy. Billy, there? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Mas, I was
Okay.
here.
Why? Why the slope is changed significantly?
Okay, maybe my assumption is because after the melting point, it will be a change in a phase, and that's why uh, the slope of after the melting point is changing, mas maybe like
Yeah.
that.
Why the phase change make that slope significantly? Why? Okay, in here there is melting, but slope not changing dramatically. But when it has become a gas boiling, why the slope is changed dramatically? Yes, there's a phase change. After melting point, there is a phase change from solid to liquid. And then in boiling point, there is phase change from liquid to gas. Why the slope after B is changed dramatically? Compared to after M. M to B, there is a change of slope, but it's very,
Yeah,
very small. But from B, there is significant. Why?
I think it's because the phase transition from liquid to gas
Mhm.
is it has a bigger entropy. Uh,
Yes.
so it's
Remember,
like a
entropy is degree of disorder.
yes,
Gas is really disorder compared to liquid.
it's
Liquid
true.
and solid, well, it's maybe not as big as gas. The entropy as gas is much bigger than liquid. Therefore, the delta S will become big and the slope is big. Okay, thank you,
Mm.
Billy. You save ITB face.
You're
Okay, you can
welcome.
answer. Okay, guys. So this is I like this kind of two-way of discussion, right? So the slope can change. Now we move to the use of the Ellingham diagram. More negative, more stable of the oxide. Okay. For example, at 800 at 800 degrees C, the value of the Gibbs energy of calcium oxide, it is more negative than, for example, titanium oxide. Because titanium oxide above calcium oxide, it means at this temperature, calcium oxide is more stable. Or oxygen tend to love calcium more than to titanium. Okay, guys? Because calcium oxide, the Gibbs energy is below. You can see here, for one compound, the Gibbs energy, when temperature increase, the Gibbs energy is become more positive. For example, at 400 Celsius for calcium is around maybe 600, and then at 1200 it become 1000. At higher temperature, the Gibbs energy of calcium oxide become more positive. It means calcium oxide less stable at high temperature. Let's see the oxide, for example, of iron oxide. Okay, you can see here FeO, the Gibbs energy of FeO, it's higher, definitely, compare if FeO at lower temperature become more positive, more positive. And this is the reason because the oxide is not stable at high temperature, the extraction or decomposition of oxide to produce metal is done at high temperature. Reduction of iron oxide to become iron is undertaken at higher temperature because at high temperature the oxide is less stable compared at low temperature. Extraction of aluminum oxide, it's happen at high temperature. Calcium oxide also at high temperature. Thermodynamically, it is because at higher temperature, oxide is less stable and therefore it's love to change to become a metal. Even for gold, for example, at higher temperature, it become positive. Even you don't need any reductor or any energy, or for example like in case of electrolysis you need electrical energy at higher temperature even for gold but not shown here. The Gibbs energy is positive, it means oxide is not stable, it will automatically decompose to become gold. Okay, here you can see here in the bottom of the diagram, for example, above 500 degree for this is for Hg is in Indonesia is called raksa, is positive at 500, above 500, and gold oxide is become positive above 200 degrees C. So if you have gold oxide and you put it above 200 degrees C, the gold oxide not stable, therefore it will become gold and oxygen decompose. Okay, guys? Next. This is very important. Oxide located lower in the diagram will have higher tendency for its metals to react with oxygen and they are more stable. Yes, because lower location have stability of oxide. Sorry, the oxide located lower in the diagram has a stability higher than above. This is point number 2. This is really important. This is the rule how you select a reductant to reduce oxide to produce a metal. So, an oxide can be reduced by a metal located lower in the diagram. Okay, for example, SiO2 can be reduced by aluminum, magnesium, and calcium. Why? Because aluminum oxide, magnesium oxide, calcium oxide located below SiO2 in the Ellingham diagram. So this is important. So if you want to select a reductor, a metal reductor, yes, that metal reductor need to be located below the oxide. Questions now. Can we produce Mn from MnO by reacting MnO with silicon? Okay guys, again, I will give you GoPay 50 rupiah, 50,000 rupiah and explain why. Can MnO be reduced by, for example, aluminum to produce Mn? Very simple question. Anyone? Okay, then I will pick. If I pick someone, you don't get money. Okay, guys?
Yes, Pak Imam. Yes, Pak Imam. Aluminium can reduce iron oxide.
Why?
Uh, yeah, because aluminium has lower Gibbs energy ya, Pak Imam.
Okay. Okay, Mas Wahyu. Direct message me your GoPay number, okay? Yes, aluminium because it is located below the MnO. So aluminium can reduce MnO become Nn. Also, next questions. Can carbon reduce aluminum oxide to become aluminium?
Yes, Pak Imam. After temperature 2000
Not you,
Celsius
not
degree.
you.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry,
okay,
sorry.
guys. Of course, carbon. The rule is the reductant have to be located below the oxide. You can see here the Ellingham of carbon. It is below aluminium above 1700. Below 1700, Ellingham of carbon still above the aluminum oxide. So therefore, below 1700, carbon, the red one, you can see the red one here, guys. It is below the aluminum oxide is above 1000, only above 2000 here, you can see here. So, carbon is well-known reductant. It is available as carbon like almost everywhere. In Kalimantan, you have coal. Coal is carbon. So carbon is the most important reductant in the human history. Therefore, it is drawn in the red line. Therefore, if you use carbon as a reductant, you have to select correct temperature. The temperature you select so that the Ellingham of carbon, it will be below the Ellingham of oxide that you want reduce. Okay, next questions. Okay. Guys, you can see that you can reduce aluminum oxide with carbon to become aluminum, but above 2000. The question is, can we still reduce aluminum oxide with carbon but below 2000? If it can, why? Somebody can explain. I will give you 100,000 GoPay. Can we still reduce aluminum oxide with carbon below 2000 degrees C? For example, at 1600 degrees Celsius. Anyone can help me answer this question? 100K. Guys? Okay. I will change the question. Maybe not aluminum. Let's talk about magnesium oxide. In here, the Ellingham of magnesium of carbon for magnesium oxide. I will draw here this with color of blue. This is the Ellingham of magnesium oxide. Okay. And the red one is Ellingham of carbon. Ellingham of carbon below magnesium oxide is below 1000 and how much it is? For example, 1800. Okay. Can we reduce magnesium oxide to become magnesium below 1800? For example, in the temperature of this one. Okay, somebody can help me? Wahyu, you can still answer.
Yeah, Pak Imam, I will try to answer.
Yes.
Maybe we can if we change the oxygen temperature, oxygen pressure, Pak Imam.
Okay, how do you know? Yes, correct. You got 150 gope, Pak Wahyu. We can, as long as we change the shape of the Ellingham diagram. For example, if we change the slope to become like this, and the MGO become like this, so that the cross section is in here. Okay, guys, then we can do at 400. Initially, it is like this at total pressure of 1. But we can change the slope of the Ellingham diagram. So the slope becomes so steep and steeper by changing total pressure. If we change total pressure, then automatically the oxygen partial pressure will change. So basically, the concept is still from the Ellingham diagram. So the task is by changing the intersection, or in here it's called, for example, inversion point. Okay, we can change this one by changing the partial pressure to become here. So there is a change here. So at lower temperature, the Ellingham of carbon is lower than magnesium oxide. You can see here CaO, MgO, and aluminum oxide. And oxide is so stable. It is located in the bottom of the Ellingham diagram. It means they are so stable because its oxide is so stable. They love in the form of oxide, so it's called refractory material because its oxide is really stable. Therefore, for refractory, you select oxide that are very stable. It means they have to be located in the bottom of the Ellingham diagram. Any questions? Any question? Okay, let's move to next slide. Next slide. Okay, hang on. Okay. Gas pressure scale. Because the Ellingham diagram of Gibbs energy, if we write it is actually you can see here in the scale here, delta G naught equal to RT ln PO2. So from this equation, this one guys, okay, you can see here, okay. So if we select temperature, we will know the delta H, and automatically we will know the PA2. Why this PO2 is important, I will tell you later. Okay? This one. When oxygen partial pressure at selected temperature equal that of metal oxide pair, these three phases can exist together. I mean, for example, guys, this is an equilibrium equation. For example, at 800 here, 800, and then this is for MnO. Okay, you know the Gibbs energy, and then you can calculate by this equation the oxygen partial pressure. It means if you have a container, guys, if you have a container at this temperature, and inside container there is oxygen. Oxygen is really small. It is minus 30 atmosphere. And inside the container there is Mn. The Mn automatically will be in equilibrium with MnO and then oxygen, of course, although the oxygen is really, really small. Okay, guys? This is the how to calculate the oxygen pressure, okay? At 800, you know the Gibbs energy, and then R is 8.3, and temperature is in Kelvin, then you automatically know the value of oxygen pressure. Okay, sorry, what happened? Okay, I will share again my screen. Anyone can see my slide? Hello, guys.
Yes.
Can you see my slide? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We can see before that at 850, and if the oxygen pressure is minus 30, then MnO, and oxygen is in equilibrium condition. What happened if at 850 the oxygen pressure it is not minus 30 atmosphere? It means not in equilibrium. Again, the equilibrium pressure of oxygen for Mn, MnO, and oxygen at 850 is minus 30. If the oxygen is not minus 30, then Mn, MnO, and oxygen, it is not in equilibrium condition. What happened if it is not minus 30? It can be two, below minus 30 or above minus 30. If oxygen partial pressure is higher than minus 30, it means you have a lot of oxygen. Because it is not in equilibrium, then in order to become equilibrium, oxygen need to be decreased. Therefore, oxygen will react with Mn to become MnO. The reaction become oxidation. So if you have oxygen higher than equilibrium condition, it means the condition is more oxidative, then reaction of oxidation will occur. However, if at this temperature, oxygen pressure is below -30, it means less oxidative, it means reductive, then reduction of MnO become Mn will happen. So this is the basic of reduction process. How you control oxygen so that it's below the oxygen pressure of its equilibrium between metal and metal oxides. Exercise. At 800 degrees C, at equilibrium, Ne oxide and hydrogen and water can exist together. What is ratio of hydrogen and water at these conditions? Again, okay, before that, I want to teach you how to see directly from the graph to calculate the oxygen pressure. For example, at 800, and then you determine which equilibrium, this one for example, between Mn and MnO, then you put in here and you see the cross section between temperature line and the Ellingham diagram line, and then from the O in here mean oxygen, you can directly take the line here and see the oxygen pressure, and this is the value. So you can directly see from the Ellingham diagram the oxygen partial pressure. So this is how to read oxygen partial pressure. Now, next question is, at 800 C, nickel oxide, hydrogen, and water can exist together. This is the fundamental of production of nickel from nickel laterite using hydrogen as reductor. Okay guys, my question is, at 800 degrees C, maybe some people from Antam in Sulawesi want to reduce nickel oxide to become nickel. Before that, I have a question to you. For example, the reduction is taking place at 800 C. From the Ellingham diagram, what is the ratio between hydrogen and water at this temperature so that nickel oxide, hydrogen, and water can exist together? Someone please. I give you 3 minutes and I will give you GoPay 50K. I will give you a time for 3 minutes to think, and please raise your hand. 50K GoPay. Okay. Okay, 3 minutes. If no one answer, then I will pick. Okay? 3 minutes from now. I will take some water. Okay, anyone can help answer the question? How to determine? Guys, are you there? Okay, then I will try to ask my student. Okay. Maybe Revio, are you there, Revio? Or please don't say anyone. It's now time to practice also English. No one? Billy, you raise your hand?
Yes, Mas.
No, you already answered.
Okay.
Someone else. Okay. Okay, Billy.
Can I?
Yeah. Daud, yes, Mas Daud, yes.
Yeah, I don't really sure about my question, but I think it is in around here.
You can draw in here. Around there.
Yeah,
Okay. What is that? The ratio.
when I make a straight
Yeah.
line in 800 Celsius
Mhm.
and connect it with
Mm.
nickel,
Yes, going up 800. Yes, and then from that, and then
and I connect it with H
yes,
and make a
excellent.
straight line,
Yes.
until the end,
Mm-mm.
around there.
Then you find this exactly. Okay, Daud. Excellent. Can I see your face?
Sorry, wait.
Because you are my student, but I don't know your face. Yes.
Wait a moment.
Mm. Okay, Daud. So it is around
Higher than
around 0. Say 0
001.
0 1.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's things. Let's okay, continue, Daud. So this is it's called the equilibrium ratio between hydrogen and water. Daud. Daud, for example, if the ratio say at 800 is this one 0.009. Do you think the condition is in equilibrium, Daud?
I I think yes, because it is lower than
No.
0.001.
At 800, you say that the ratio or equilibrium ratio is 0.001.
Oh,
So
sorry.
if it is at 800, the value is 0.9. Is it in equilibrium?
I think if the value of equilibrium condition is exact 0.001, then
It is in equilibrium. But
yeah,
now at 800, it is not 0.001, it is 0.009 the ratio. Is it in
it
equilibrium?
is no.
Yes, no. No. Not in equilibrium.
Yeah, because it
Reaction will
must be
happen.
exact. Yeah.
Reaction will happen. First, so please select and why. Reaction 1, nickel become nickel oxide. Like this. Nickel become nickel oxide. And those, there is water here. Okay. Or nickel oxide plus hydrogen become nickel plus water. Which one will happen? You say that the partial pressure is 009. This is not in equilibrium. Then reaction will happen. Because not equal, something need to be happen. Which reaction do you think will occur? Doubt. First one or second one?
I think the first one.
Really?
I
You
don't
can
really
see
sure.
here, compared to 001, because now you have 009, do you think you have more hydrogen or more water?
Oh, yeah. I
Let's
think
see.
I have more hydrogen.
Yes, because 009 compared to 001 is bigger. It means the hydrogen now bigger. Okay?
Yeah.
So now
Now
you
the
have to
reaction
reduce the
is
number of oxygen, or the water is less. You need more water, you need less hydrogen. Then this reaction will happen. Okay? Right?
yeah, okay, fine.
Reaction number 2, you produce more water so that the hydrogen will decrease, so that the reaction will stop if the ratio become 001 or if the condition is equilibrium. So this is the fundamental of the reduction of nickel laterite become nickel. You need to have the ratio between hydrogen and water bigger than this. Bigger than this. Okay. If the ratio between hydrogen and water below this value, below 001, reduction will not happen. Reduction is reaction number 2. This is the reduction or production of nickel from nickel oxide, all nickel laterite. So the ratio of the hydrogen and water you have to maintain inside the reactor, that the ratio need to be bigger than 0.1. Again, it seems just fundamental of the Ellingham diagram, but this can answer a lot of things. Thank you, Daud.
Yeah, thank you, Mas.
Because you are so active, I will not give you 50K, but 100K, okay? So
Okay, thank
direct
you, Mas.
message me after this. Okay. Any question, anyone? I love active student. No questions? Okay. Then move to the next. Thank you, Daud. Okay. Now this is the explanation. ET 0.001. If 800, the ratio is not -2, then the system is not in equilibrium. Reaction will take place. If it is bigger than -2, reduction will happen. Okay, guys? So, therefore, in order the reduction with hydrogen gas can taking place, you have to maintain the ratio of hydrogen and water. Okay. Next. Okay, remember this one. Okay, guys. Let's see. Reducing. Now you want to reduce MgO. You want to reduce MgO, MnO, and silicon oxide to produce MgSeMn by using hydrogen. Do you think it is applicable in practice? Let's see. Let's back. Let's back to slide. Okay, guys. Mas Wahyu, you can answer. This is challenging question. Daud, you can answer. What happened? Okay. I am a businessman. Come to you. And I ask you something. I want to produce, for example, magnesium from magnesium oxide, but using hydrogen as reductor. Is it practically possible or applicable? I give you 3 minutes to think. I want to produce magnesium oxide from, sorry, I want to produce magnesium from magnesium oxide by using hydrogen gas as reductor, not carbon. Do you think it is applicable? I give you 3 minutes to think.
Pak Imam.
Yes, Mas
Halo, Pak
Wahyu.
Imam.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will try to answer, but I'm sorry if I mistake.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not applicable, Pak, if we using hydrogen to reduce MgO, MnOs, silicon oxide. I think it's
For
not
example,
applicable.
why? Can you explain?
Maybe it will need very high hydrogen. Yeah, Pak Imam. I think it will need very high hydrogen unit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the economically, it's not applicable.
Okay. Yes. Let's draw the line. Okay. Thank you, Pak Wahyu. Let's take temperature of 800. 800. And then MgO is here. And then take the line from H. Okay. Look, the ratio between hydrogen and water is very big. The condition inside the reactor need to be very pure of hydrogen, and that's almost impossible. It means once water is produced, remember when we reduce oxide with hydrogen, you will produce water. Okay? If you produce water, the gas will not pure of hydrogen anymore. So reaction will stop. Because you can see the ratio between hydrogen and water is, you can see here how much, maybe 10, 14. Or the number of water is really, really small. And this is equilibrium. Equilibrium means stop. So once water is produced, very small of water exists in the reactor, reaction will stop. It is now in equilibrium. So it is practically impossible. Okay? Nickel is okay, iron is okay, but for refractory metal, refractory oxide to be reduced with hydrogen is practically impossible because the ratio of equilibrium is this one. Very small amount of water or almost pure hydrogen, nothing happen. Okay? Okay, guys? Thank you. I have active
One
student.
question, Pak Imam. Halo, Pak Imam.
Halo, Pak Pras?
Yeah, one question, Pak Imam.
Yes.
If you say that the ratio of H2 and H2O is too big, in practice, what is the limit about the ratio of H2 and H2O? Is there any limit
Yes.
that we can use?
Yeah. For the magnesium and calcium, the limit is in Ellingham. There's value. You have always need to be bigger than that. Pure hydrogen. Almost pure hydrogen. But it is impossible. It is difficult to control pure hydrogen in the reactor. Once there is small amount of water, reaction will stop. Therefore, it is impossible using hydrogen as reductor to reduce, for example, silicon oxide become silicon, aluminum oxide to become aluminum, magnesium oxide to become magnesium. Okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean the H2 and H2O ratio. What is the limit? For example, the limit is 10,000 or 100 or something.
We just draw. It is 10 power of 12. 10 power of 12. So this one. 10 power of 12 is this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to life. And 1. Once there is 1 mole of water, reaction stop. You cannot have this. This is hydrogen and water.
Yeah,
You,
I mean, for example, if the ratio is 10 power 4, for example, 10.4 is on the right
if
side.
10.4, oxidation will happen. Not reduction, but oxidation. If you have nickel or magnesium in there, so magnesium will become magnesium oxide. So, if the value is not this one, for example, smaller than this one, then it is oxidative. Then oxidation will take place. You will not produce magnesium for magnesium oxide, but you will oxidize magnesium to become magnesium oxide if there is magnesium metal in the reactor. I hope that's answered your questions.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Next. slide. Okay, that's the answer, guys. Okay. Now 50K. When you want to produce copper from a mud, okay, if you want to produce copper from a mud, there is converting process. In the first blow of converting process, Fa or iron will stable as oxide, and therefore because iron is stable as oxide, they will go to the slag. However, and of course, we don't want copper to become oxide. If copper become oxide, it will go to the slag. Remember, slag is collection of oxide. If you have oxide, for example, iron oxide, copper oxide, it will go to the slag. Therefore, in matter converting process first blow, you want iron to become iron oxide that go to the slag, but you want copper stable as sulfide or a metal to produce a white metal. Okay, guys? Okay, at this condition, imagine I have a condition of first blowing of matter. At this condition, I adjust temperature, I can adjust oxygen partial pressure. At this condition, iron become iron oxide, but copper will become copper, not copper oxide. And then what happened with metal like palladium, platinum, silicon, and calcium? Will palladium, platinum, silicon, calcium become an oxide? Okay, at this condition, iron become iron oxide. For example, and at this condition, copper is become Cu or Cu2S. I mean still a metal. This is the condition inside my reactor. I don't measure oxygen pressure. I just see that iron is become iron oxide and copper is in the form of copper. And then at this condition, what is the form of palladium, platinum, silicon, and calcium? I give you 3 minutes to think. Okay, guys. Anyone want to help answering the question? Student? Anyone? Doubt? There is no wrong or right. In here, we learning together and discuss. Doubt?
Yes. Mas.
So you have a condition inside a reactor. At that condition, iron become iron oxide, but copper still become a copper. Then what happened inside the reactor with palladium, platinum, silicon, and calcium? Doubt.
Sorry, I don't really understand how to
Okay.
answer it.
Someone can help? Okay, guys, let's see. Where is iron? The Ellingham of iron. Ellingham of iron. This one, for example. Okay. Iron become oxide. Okay. What happened with calcium and silicon, Daud? Which one if love more oxygen? Silicon or iron love more oxygen, Daud?
Silicon.
Yes, because it's far below the Ellingham diagram. Look,
Yes.
at this condition, iron become oxide. It means a metal that love more oxygen will become oxide. Do you agree?
Yes, Mas.
Lower part is love oxygen, upper part hate oxygen. Okay. Iron become oxygen. Iron become iron oxide. So it means any metal that love more oxygen, automatically they will run to oxygen. Because, okay, however, look, copper don't change to copper oxide. It means metal like palladium and platinum that the Ellingham is in here. Okay. Copper love more oxygen than palladium and platinum. And copper don't like to become oxide. It means a metal that hate oxygen more than copper, they will not become oxide. Do you agree?
Oh, yes.
Do you agree? For example, iron love spicy food. Silicon and calcium love more spicy food, level 10. Then, if iron can eat spicy food, then silicon and magnesium automatically they will eat the spicy that iron can. Okay. However, copper, they don't eat spicy food. It means any metal that hate more spicy food than copper, they will not eat that. Can you understand with that kind of comparison, Daud?
Yeah. Yeah, Mas.
Okay. Okay. Sometimes you need to compare with something. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Can I answer?
No, I already answered.
So the silicon and calcium will transform itself into its oxide, calcium oxide and
Then,
silicon oxide,
huh?
and
But
the palladium and platinum will still be its metals.
yes, it's good.
Oh,
That's
okay.
basic of the extraction.
Okay, thank you, Mas.
Okay. you will get GoPay. Okay? Okay. Okay, I need to erase this. Okay. Okay, nice. Pekka, are you there? Oh yes, Pekka still there.
Yes, I'm here.
Do you agree with my explanation?
Yes, it is simple and very good.
Thank you. Okay, guys, let's move to the next slide. Okay. Okay. Okay, you already. Okay. Guys, before this, I already explained that, look, an oxide can be reduced by the metal located lower in the diagram. Daud, can calcium reduce MgO?
Yeah.
Yes. Can aluminum reduce TiO?
Yes, it can.
Because aluminum below
Below the
titanium.
titanium.
Okay.
Yes.
Can silicon reduce titanium oxide?
No, it couldn't.
So the reductor or a metal that can reduce oxide need to be located below its oxide. Daud, now I want to produce calcium from calcium oxide. Can I use carbon as reductor?
Yes, I think
But
as
at
long
high
as
temperature.
yeah,
Because
high
below.
temperature.
But now I want the process to be at low temperature. Yes, you can change the slope of the Ellingham diagram. Now we talk. Now let's discuss to a metal that located in the bottom of Ellingham diagram. Look, this one, guys. You have calcium in here, but below calcium, there is many metal that located below calcium. You can see ruthenium and then europium. It is above the calcium, but it's still europium, yttrium. Okay, this logam is really refractory, and this is really difficult to extract because they are not only in the bottom of Ellingham diagram. Their Ellingham diagram is very close to each other. Black, it means the Ellingham diagram of rare earth oxide is really close to each other. So when you reduce one rare earth oxide, other rare earth oxide will be reduced. And usually it become alloy. Why? Because they have similar affinity of oxygen. Okay, Daud, let's see here. Okay, you have lanthanum oxide, this one lanthanum oxide, and then yttrium oxide, europium oxide. Okay, to extract rare earth, for example, europium oxide or lanthanum oxide, what reductor you can select, Daud?
Yttrium, I think.
And then calcium. Can we use calcium?
Oh yes, calcium also.
If you can, if you have yttrium, you can. But how you produce yttrium? But
Yeah,
calcium,
it's difficult.
it's easy to produce. Calcium you can produce from seawater. Okay. So this is the reason, one of the reason why rare earth element like europium and yttrium, it is difficult to produce in human lives. It need a long time for people to have yttrium or yttrium metal, europium, because it is difficult to find reductor, and also it is located in the bottom of the Ellingham diagram, and it is very close to each other. Okay, guys. From the Ellingham diagram, we can tell a lot of things. Okay. Okay, this is you. How about if it is in the form of chloride? For example, the rare earth in the form of chloride. If in the form of oxide, now in the form of chloride. If it is in the form of oxide, calcium is like the only option as a reductor. But if it is in the form of chloride, what can be a reductor, Daud?
Kalium,
Yes.
potassium, and lithium.
Kalium is potassium, okay?
Yeah,
Kalium,
potassium and lithium.
lithium, and you have more option, okay?
Yeah.
Not only calcium. And sometimes, therefore, people change rare earth oxide to become rare earth chloride, so that the option for the reductor is more than one, not only calcium. Now you can use calcium because calcium is below the rare earth chloride in the Ellingham diagram. So this is also fundamental of the extraction of rare earth. Okay. Okay. Next. Now I want to discuss potential diagram. This is important because in metallurgical process you will have, for example, electrolysis process. In the electrolysis process, you don't need reductor. For example, in here, okay, aluminium, you need a reductor and at high temperature. Theoretically, you can produce aluminium, you can produce magnesium, you can produce calcium without reductor. For example, you want to produce aluminium from aluminium oxide. It means the reaction is like this. Aluminium oxide become aluminium without any reductant. It means the reaction is decomposition reaction plus O2. This is the reaction that telling you producing a metal from oxide without any reductor, which is decomposition of reaction. This reaction, the delta G is positive. you can check in the Ellingham diagram. Reaction to the left side is negative. Then the reaction of the opposite is positive. Ellingham diagram is reaction of formation. If the reaction of formation is positive, then the opposite of the reaction of formation, which is reaction of decomposition, it means positive. Opposite of negative is positive. Then the Gibbs energy is positive. What is the meaning of Gibbs energy positive? The Gibbs energy positive mean the reaction still can happen, but not spontaneous. Spontaneous is the reaction that can happen by itself. Therefore, because this is positive, it means not spontaneous, it needs energy. Therefore, we need electrical energy to lysis, to decompose oxide to become metal. Therefore, it's called electrolysis. Why we need electric? Because it is need energy. Why need energy? Because it is positive delta Gibbs energy. So the reaction can happen by the help of energy. Why we need energy? Because the reaction is not spontaneous, but still can happen. Okay? Therefore, guys, we have to know what is the minimum potential or electrical things that need to be supplied to the reactor. It's called cell of electrolysis. What is the minimum of the voltage that need to be introduced to the reactor or the cell so the decomposition can happen? So actually this can be seen from the potential diagram, and the potential diagram is actually another form of Ellingham diagram. So this is the example. This is the Ellingham diagram. Now we want to change to become potential diagram. Ellingham diagram, X is temperature and Y is Gibbs energy. Now we want to change to become this one. You can see here in the left side. The right side is the Ellingham diagram. And then in the left side is the potential diagram. X is temperature, Y is potential diagram. Here, the potential diagram and Ellingham diagram. Sorry, I want to clean this first. Okay. Okay, guys. In the left, it is Ellingham diagram. And on the right, in the top, it is also Ellingham. But in the bottom corner, this is potential diagram. How to change from top to the bottom, from the Ellingham to the potential? It is easy by using Nernst equations. You can directly using this one. The Gibbs energy, it is equal to NF Faraday constant times potential, chemical potential, then electrochemical potential equal to Gibbs energy divided by number of electron and Faraday. Very simple. Very, very simple. You just select the temperature, select the Gibbs energy, then directly divide it by number of electron and Faraday, and then you will have this diagram. Okay, let's now discuss the use of this diagram. I will clean this. Okay. For example, at 900, you want to decompose aluminum oxide to become aluminum. Then please select first the line of aluminum oxide. This is the line of aluminum oxide. Then from 900 going up until it hits the aluminum oxide. You can see here the decomposition potential of aluminum oxide is this one, around 2.4. The decomposition of aluminum oxide at 800 is 2.4. That's the minimum. That's the minimum theoretically potential that you have to supply to the reactor or to the cell in order to decompose aluminum. Or bigger, if you put potential to the cell 4 volt, a test will decompose not only aluminum oxide, but it will also decompose neodymium oxide, iron fluoride, and zinc fluoride, but it will not decompose aluminum fluoride. Again, it will decompose aluminum oxide, but not decompose aluminum fluoride. That's the use of the potential diagram. Any questions? No? Then I will move to the next diagram. Okay, this is the example of the use of the potential diagram. You can find this in the slide. You can learn by yourself later. You will get this this slide. Now I will tell you about another diagram that is employed in copper extraction process. So this is, for example, if you select at 900, the voltage is in here 2.3. 2.3 is in around 900 in here. So it will decompose ZNO and FeO3, but no decomposition of cryolite. Okay, sodium aluminum fluoride. Cryolite is one of electrolyte used in the Hall-Héroult process to lower the melting point of aluminum oxide. Okay, guys. In Indonesia, it is in North Sumatra, in PT Inalum. Any questions? If not, I will move to the Kellogg diagram and Yazawa diagram. This is very important diagram. Again, to plot Ellingham diagram, to plot potential diagram, we need Gibbs energy. That's why Gibbs energy is crucial, fundamental. People around the world want to measure Gibbs energy, including me. My PhD with Professor Pekka in Finland, he teach me how to measure Gibbs energy of the reaction for some alloys. Okay, now we move to Kellogg diagram and Yazawa diagram. This is the example of Kellogg diagram. It is at constant temperature. In this case, the constant temperature is 1000. Okay. The X is log partial pressure of oxygen, and the Y if oxygen log partial pressure of sulfur oxide. You can see here there is straight line, vertical line, there is a straight line with slope. Okay, guys. Any point in the black line, for example, in here, it means copper sulfide, copper 2 sulfide can exist together at oxygen partial pressure of a -15 and sulfur oxide partial pressure close to 1. If your point is, for example, in here, you can see here my cursor. This is not in the line. This is in the area of CO2O. It means at this condition, CO2O is stable. You will have only a condensed phase of CO2O and other gas. No copper sulfide, no copper. All copper will become copper oxide. Okay? Now, how to draw this diagram? Because this diagram will be used by PK in some explanation of the courses. So how to draw this diagram? Okay, first you have to collect the data of the reaction, Gibbs energy of the reaction. This is the example, the reaction, for example, of calcium sulfide peak oxygen in equilibrium with CO2O. Okay. Okay, guys. And then from this, you calculate the K or equilibrium constant. This is the example. Okay, this one. For example, the reaction of Cu plus oxygen becomes Cu2O. K is, because this is condensed phase, it is pure copper and pure Cu2O, the activity of 1, and then the K is 1 divided by PO2. And K, you can calculate the K from the Gibbs energy. Therefore, if we know delta G and we know K, then if we put log K, then the equation will become this one. If we put log in the both side, log K, you will get this. And log PO2 is the y-axis. And the log K is the x-axis. Then y minus log K, it is like y equal to minus x. It means straight line with the gradient of 1, which is this one. This is 45 degree. Tan 45 degree is 1. And this is the slope. Okay, guys? Sorry. No. I'm sorry. I have a mistake here. Okay. If we know Gibbs energy, then we know K, then the Y is equal to a value or constant. Okay, guys? Okay? Hang on. PO2 is X. Sorry, this is X, typo here. So the equation will be the equation will be X equal to a number. And this is vertical line. This one. In this case, log K is minus 10. Okay, I need to correct this one. This need to be X, not Y. Okay, then how to draw this line, the line with gradient of 1. Okay, it is from this reaction. Calcium plus sulfur, copper with sulfur oxide become copper sulfide plus oxygen, and this is the K, the equation of K. And then put log, and then from the log you will obtain this line. And then put a log, and then after you put log, you will obtain this equation. Okay. Remember, log PSO2 is Y, and this is A, and this is constant. So you will get this equation at the end of the day. You will get this equation. So you can see here, this is a straight line with the slope. Remember, in front of the X is 1. It is the slope. This is this line. So this is actually how to draw the Kellogg diagram. Very easy. Very, very easy. However, in the examination, student cannot do this. Very easy. Okay, guys. And then now move to the next. Okay. So this is the use of the diagram. This is the use of the diagram. Okay. At point A, because this is in the border between the room of copper, you can see here, guys. Point A, it is in the border between the room of Cu2O and Cu. It means both condensed phase, both solid phase can exist together. At point B, because it is in the room or in the field of Cu2O, then the only condensed phase is Cu2O, and the rest is the gas of SO2, oxygen, and sulfur. Okay, this is the importance of the oxygen partial pressure and sulfur dioxide partial pressure to be controlled in the smelting process. If you can control the pressure of sulfur dioxide and oxygen, you can control the product. Like I show you. If you can control the pressure so that it is in point A, then you will have 2 condensed phase. If you control the pressure in point B, you will only have Cu2O, or you will have all your copper in the form of oxide and will go to the slag. And we avoid this. Therefore, we need to move to the right, to the left in the copper extraction process, so that copper in the form of copper sulfide or copper sulfide. Okay. Any question? Okay. And yes, sometimes you can superimpose. This is the superimpose of 2 Kellogg diagram. This is really, really important. I will tell you. This is the basics of copper smelting, guys. Because in copper smelting, for example, you want iron become oxide, and copper become sulfide, for example. Okay, for example, can smelting condition is in this point, guys? The answer is no, because this point, copper become copper oxide and iron become iron oxide. In copper smelting, we want, for example, copper become Cu2S and iron become FeO. Then we have to select the area where copper sulfide and copper oxide stable. This is the condition of copper smelting. It means the area is this one. At this area, you can see iron stable as iron oxide and copper as copper oxide. Okay? In this area. Remember, this diagram, if superimpose is combination between two Kellogg diagram of iron and copper. So this is really important. Therefore, the operation need to be in here. The sulfur pressure need to be above this one. Okay, and oxygen pressure need to be below this one. Okay, you all need to be controlled so that the smelting condition located in this area. Okay, this is another form of the diagram. If you change the axis, if you change the x to become PS2, log PS2, and the y-axis is log PO2, then it's become Yazawa diagram. It's all the same. Okay, guys, it's all the same. It's from Gibbs energy. However, the axis is only the difference. Okay, the process to draw is the same, like in Kellogg diagram. Okay, guys, look here. Next week, PK will explain the smelting condition is this one. This one. Inside this triangle. Because inside this triangle is iron become iron oxide and copper become copper sulfide. It's called mud. Slag is iron oxide plus silica. Okay. This is conclusion so far. Okay, sorry. Dr. Dimitri will not join. So, the Gibbs energy is vital. It can be used to predict the products of the metallurgical process. It can be used to control inside the reactor and many things. Okay, guys. And what time is now? Yeah, this is the controlling fast form. We only control the easiest way is controlling the temperature and atmospheric condition. So if we control from the lesson that we discussed, from the Ellingham diagram, from the Kellogg diagram, from the potential diagram, if we control temperature, it means we know the Gibbs energy. If you define temperature, you will define the Gibbs energy. It will define the partial pressure of oxygen. It means it will define what phase stable. Okay, then how we control the temperature and atmosphere? It is depend. In the electric furnace, you can control the temperature by adjusting the electrical voltage. For example, you can control the arcs here, the trafo. What is the kV of the trafo? you can control the temperature with that in electric arc furnace. Okay. In copper smelting process, you can control the temperature between the ratio of concentrate and the oxygen you introduce. Okay, guys. Okay, the time is over. This is flash melting. PK will explain later. Also, Pak Zul will explain later. Then that's all. Any questions? Okay, guys. Any questions? Okay, Angel.
Can you share the slide again
Yes,
at
of
the
course.
Kellogg diagram?
Yes. Share Kellogg diagram. Kellogg. Yes, one for example. Yes, Angel.
Uh,
Okay.
to determine the PO2 from the K.
This one. Yes.
Yeah. If the coefficient didn't matter to insert it, the K equal to 1 divided by PO2. If the coefficient 0.5 didn't matter to...
Yes.
So
Okay.
just one.
Yeah. Okay. That's very good question. You mean what happen if this one become one, for example? Like
Yeah.
2Cu plus oxygen become 2Cu2O. It doesn't matter. When it become one, the Gibbs energy will change. So you will get the same result.
Oh, so the difference is from the number of the...
Yeah. If, for example, if this one is 0.5 and the delta G is delta G naught, if you multiple to 2, you will get 2 delta G naught. And then everything will be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any questions? The graph will be the same. It will doesn't affect like this one, okay? Because the 2 and then you will have this one is this is 0.5, its coefficient should be 0.5 here. So it will mathematically will cancel each other. Although it gives energy to time, but the activity of the pressure will be different. So mathematically it will cancel each other. If you multiply become to 2, then the power of PO2 will increase, so it will cancel each other. Is that answer your question, Angel?
Yeah, that's answer my question. Thank
It
you.
will cancel each other. You multiple become 2 and yeah. I think that's all, guys. One more questions? I know my part is the most boring part of the all courses. But I need to give you this because the next lecture you will see a lot of diagram, maybe Kellogg diagram, Ellingham diagram, and many diagram. Therefore, you have to know this. Okay, Al-Ghazali Musa.
Yes, doctor. Thank you very much for this interesting lecture. So my question is really about the industry. So how far are those models from its implementation, the real implementation in the industry?
Oh yes, the diagram is used a lot, like the Ellingham diagram, Kellogg diagram. It used a lot in the metal extraction like I explained before, like in the exercise, how we use the Ellingham diagram to predict the reduction of or the production of nickel from nickel oxide, production of aluminium using Hall-Héroult process, and the production of magnesium from magnesium oxide using retorting, that reducing the total partial pressure. That's all the basics of the extraction is the use of Gibbs energy. The Gibbs energy can be used to plot a diagram. Diagram can be used to guide the success of the process. I will show again Musa. This is the I will show you the example use of the Ellingham diagram. This one because 2 years ago we manipulate. Hang on. Okay, this one. You can see where is the okay. 2 years ago we published paper in vacuum. We reduce dolomite or magnesium oxide with carbon. If it undertaken at 1 atmosphere pressure, the minimum reduction process is this one, 1800 degrees C. Because using this Ellingham diagram, you can see the Ellingham of carbon below magnesium oxide is above 1800 degrees C. Very high temperature. We don't have furnace that can reach that temperature in here. And then we manipulate the Ellingham diagram so it changes the slope like this. So now we can do the reduction with carbon at, for example, at 1500 by using this Ellingham diagram. We put a vacuum. We put the reagent in vacuum. So the reduction can take place at low temperature, and yes, we successfully produce the magnesium from magnesium oxide, and we publish it in paper. So that's the example of use of the Ellingham diagram to predict the reaction like reduction or oxidation happens. I think this can answer your question, Al Ghazali.
Yes, thank you. I got it. Appreciate it.
Okay, someone, anyone? I think that's enough. Thank you very much, and we see tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow with Professor Longgong. Bye bye.
Yeah.